Welcome to the Well Studying Podcast. This is episode 532. Today is August 21st, 2026. I'm your host, John Pugliano. My son Joe is sitting in the co-pilot chair today. We got a great episode. We are streaming on YouTube. Joe, what are we going to talk about?
We're going to give a little story about what happened to us recently in terms of correlation and causation.
Yeah. We always hear in statistics that correlation isn't causation, and we're not going to bore people with all the mathematics and that part of it. So we are going to go to our story. Otherwise, we know no one will listen or no one will watch. But before we go to the story, the reason this is so important is that people always want to create the illusion that correlation is causation. So they show you a chart and they say, look, it's a full moon. And every time there's a full moon, the stock goes up. And they show the chart and it looks good. But if you really, do some studying on it, you'll see that there's no rational way that the full moon is really causing that stock to go up. In that case, they're just cherry picking data and they're making it work. I would argue that most people do go out and cherry pick the data and then build the argument around the data. That's why people can back test things and they'll tell you how they're 99.99% back tested, but then they don't work going forward. That's why I always say I can't predict the future. I used to say I don't have a crystal ball. Don't say that anymore. We do have a crystal ball. It doesn't work. I use charts. I come up with all types of analysis and things, but I always do it knowing that I'm just looking at a snapshot in time, or that I'm using this prior data to make an educated guess. But it's never more than that. It's always about assessing probabilities. And I don't care if it's a talking head from Goldman Sachs or JP Morgan, or if it's somebody from the Treasury Department or someone from the Federal Reserve. The Federal Reserve does dot plots. I'm going to digress for a second. These dot plots, they drive me crazy. The media will get on there and debate and argue about how the dot plot chart looks. No one ever goes back 6 months, 8 months, 12 months earlier and shows the dot plot and how it had absolutely no basis on reality as to either where interest rates went or what the Federal Reserve did. It's all nonsense, okay? No one can predict the future. It's all opinions. And when you come here, you get my opinion, you get Joe's opinion. That's all it is. I will say my opinion has made me very wealthy. Take that for what it's worth. Okay, I am done digressing, Joe. Tell me your story.
Okay, well, as listeners of the podcast know, a few weeks ago, we went on
we called it a contingency training exercise or something. Yeah.
That's right. Yeah.
Because it was not a vacation. It was not a camping trip. It was a legitimate business contingency exercise to make sure that we could operate in case of an emergency.
That's right. So as we were prepping for that, my dad got a new car, and so he was hooking up his trailer to the car. But before that, the new car didn't have a brake controller in it from the factory. So being the DIY guy that my dad is, right, always trying to save some money.
Frugal. I love to tinker with things.
That's right. He pulled the brake controller off of his old car, and we wired it up and connected it to the new car. We had everything connected as we assumed it should work, right? We back up his car, plug into the trailer. None of the lights work. Yeah. They were intermittent, right? I don't even
remember if they worked at all, but
yeah. It was like sometimes they would work and sometimes they wouldn't. It was intermittent. And so we immediately thought, oh, well, we must have did the wires wrong.
Yeah, must be wires on the new car, or the brake controller's broken, or...
Yeah, because we didn't have a diagram that we were following.
That's true, right? Yeah, well, I think we asked our friend Gemini.
Yeah.
which wires went. And of course, they were color coded differently, and
Right.
we made some assumptions. Yes.
Yeah. So we thought that was the issue right away.
And I thought Joe's solder job was not as good as mine, and that probably was the problem as well.
Yeah.
I don't want to bring that up, but
it was tucked away in there too. It wasn't easy to get to. So yeah, we weren't sure what was up. But before we ripped out everything.
So the causation there, though, would have been, to kind of put this into the perspective.
Yeah.
The causation would have been, we had a new car, new brake controller, old trailer, bring them together, they don't work. We could have said, well, because we know it's a new system we're introducing and that's new, then that must be where the problem is. And that would be the correlation to the system not working, right? That's
Right.
kind of where our mind was. And we were looking at the new car and the brake controller.
Right. And so we were going to look at our wiring again, right? But then we thought, well, we have another car here that has a connector to it. Let's try it out on that. So we pulled out my dad's car, pulled back the truck, and plugged it in.
You plugged the brake controller in the truck, right?
No. We took your trailer.
That's right. We just used because you already had a brake controller on your truck.
Yeah. So we just wanted to make sure that the brake controller or your car was the issue and not the trailer, right? So we plugged it in. We plugged the trailer into my truck, and what
magically
happened?
What? It didn't work.
Still didn't work.
Still didn't work.
And we knew my truck controller worked.
We knew his worked, right? So we were limiting variabilities or variables, and rather than jumping to the conclusion that it was either the new truck or the new car or the old brake controller that was rewired, we now found out that the problem wasn't there, because we would have spent 30 minutes or an hour or more fooling around with the car. The car wasn't the problem.
Okay.
It didn't correlate that should have been the problem, because that was the new piece.
Right.
So what did we do?
We took the 7-pin connector out of my car, right? And when we took it out, we could hear it like rattled a little bit.
I think so.
Remember that? So we thought, oh, okay, maybe it's this connector. So we took that apart.
And we could do that, though. Why?
I don't remember
why. Because you had a multimeter, right?
Oh, that's right.
No.
You had a
Dad
multimeter.
had a multimeter.
I have one at my house.
Oh, you do? I'm impressed you have one.
You gave me it.
Okay.
But I do have one.
Okay. Yeah.
I think I have Grandpa's old one.
Okay.
Yeah.
Maybe. All right. Yeah. So rather than guessing, right, we took a multimeter, we took measurements, and we figured out exactly which pin wasn't working. It turned out to be the ground. The ground pin wasn't right. We took it apart. By the way, I did buy a new one of those plugs on Amazon, and you haven't installed it for me yet.
That's right. You keep reminding me of that.
Yeah, but just saying. It's Friday afternoon, not too late to
That's true.
to do it.
I got a Pinewood Derby to get to tonight.
Okay. In any case.
So we rewired your connector, right?
And it worked great.
Plugged it into the truck and it worked. So we pulled that out, pulled back in your car and plugged it in, and it all worked.
And it worked. So bottom line is, we would have thought, because of causation and correlation, we would have said, hey, it correlates that this is a new vehicle, new controller, whatever. That's where the problem is going to be. It wasn't. I would argue that most of the times when you see a chart or someone extrapolating some kind of data, just because it correlates does not mean that it's going to actually cause that effect. So don't be fooled. Don't be misguided. And take that for what it's worth, I guess. Joe, you got anything else?
Nope, that's all for today.
Hey, yeah, quick episode. I'll just say this. The markets have been crazy volatile day to day. Again, the indices haven't changed a whole lot. Individual stock positions are going, again, double digits in any single day. You can look at things like Bitcoin or the 30-year treasury. I mean, they're all over the map. You know what? I am just staying fully invested. And we'll see what happens until next time. Until then, John and Joe Pugliano wishing you the very best returns.